Hey folks, I'm Sean. Welcome to Hope and Encouragement. And today I want to give you 5 tools to help you conquer guilt. So let's get straight into that. Hey, if you're getting value out of this video and you like the content, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments below and let me know what your thoughts are. Also hit subscribe. All right, guilt is a powerful emotion, one that can have devastating consequences on our life. And I'm not talking about the good kind of guilt. I'm talking about the bad kind of guilt. The good kind of guilt is when you say something stupid to somebody, you feel bad about it. And that guilt makes you go and apologize. Okay? And that's just a small example of the good type of guilt. We need some of that to judge our moral compass in life. But the bad type of guilt that I'm talking about, psychologists are calling it a pathological guilt. We're taking guilt upon ourselves that doesn't belong to us, or it is so bad that it paralyzes us. A lot of people experience survivor's guilt. Say they're in a car accident, one person dies and they survive, well, then they have survivor's guilt. There's a lot of survivor's guilt going on today because of the coronavirus. People are dying and their loved ones aren't, They were in the same household and they're having survivor's guilt and they're going, well, why am I alive? And they're not. And so they're feeling really guilty. So I just wanted to touch base on the good, bad type of guilt there for a minute. But first, to truly understand what guilt is, we've got to get a definition of what we're talking about. And so I'm going to go to dictionary.com here real quick and get a pretty good definition for that. And what is the meaning of feeling guilty? Dictionary.com says the fact or state of having committed an offense, crime, violation, or wrong, especially against moral or penal law. Culpability. He admitted his guilt. A feeling of responsibility or remorse for some offense, crime, or wrong, whether real or imagined. A lot of us, especially if you're prone to some sort of mental health disorder, depression, anxiety, OCD, whatever the case might be, it can have adverse effects on you. And especially if you're in addiction recovery. If you're in recovery, once you get past the stage of the withdrawal symptoms, once you get past the stage of desiring the drug, once you're trying to make a better life for yourself, then all of a sudden you've got all these emotions of guilt coming up about everything that you've done to your family. And I'm not talking physically done. I'm talking about emotionally. How you left them for the drugs, or the alcohol in my case. In my personal case, my addiction kept me away from my 2 oldest children. It kept me from being in their lives. It kept me from being a father to them. And that destroyed our relationship. And, I'm working to get that back, but I've got to take my time and I've got to allow them to heal as well. And if they don't want that healing, then that's fine. And I have to accept that. And I have to accept that with gratitude. I have to give them permission to feel that way because it's their right. So I was reading an article in Psychology Today, and it's by Dr. Leon Seltzer, and it's a really good article. And in the article, he gives us 9 ways to conquer guilt. Now, I'm going to give us 5 because I really want you to go read his article. And I'm going to put a link to it in the description below. So make sure you click on that. Make sure you go check his article out because it was really good. All right, here's a quote from his article that I want to read to you. It says, writers on this subject have talked about the importance of distinguishing between rational or productive guilt, that's the good kind of guilt that I was telling you about, and guilt that's inordinately self-critical and gratuitous. That's the bad kind of guilt that I was telling you about. Such unjustified guilt has been linked to needless emotional suffering and self-loathing. And if it lasts long enough, this eternal agonizing can lead to such anxiety or shame-based problems as substance abuse, sexual disorders, and an enormous variety of self-sabotaging behaviors. Okay, that's if you live with this long enough, it's going to mess your life up. And that's what he's saying right here. And that's what he's going through and explaining. So unless guilt feelings are actually necessary for you to take appropriate responsibility for a significant misdeed, such feelings don't really serve you or anyone. So did you hear that? They don't serve you or anyone if this is that pathological guilt that I was telling you about. It's not helping. Guilt can affect us in a bunch of ways and for a bunch of reasons. Now, not all guilt is bad, and I want to make sure that you understand that because I don't want you to be guilty. I don't want you to be a narcissistic. I don't want you to be a sociopath. That's one of the ways that they describe sociopaths is they have no remorse for anything. They have no conscience for anything. And if you're watching this video about how to conquer guilt, you're not one of those people. I mean, plain and simple. All right, so let's get into the 5 tools to help you conquer guilt. Now, again, you'll find it on the link. You'll find it Dr. Seltzer's article in the description below. Go read that. All right, number 1, tell yourself that you did the best you could. That whatever lapse of sound judgment impelled you to do something you now regret was yet the best judgment available to you at the time. So, in my case, let's take my alcohol addiction. I knew that alcoholics ran in my family. But when I took that first drink of tequila, I didn't know it was just going to take 1 drink. I didn't know it was just going to take finishing off a 5th. I didn't think it was just going to be that quick. I had drank beer for years. Never fazed me. I could put a beer down. Matter of fact, most times I'd only drink 1 or 2 beers and never touch it again. A 6-pack would last me for 1 or 2 months. So they didn't have anything. But man, as soon as I took that 1 shot of tequila, it was a different story. So that's something I have to forgive myself for and let that guilt go. So what's yours? What's something going on in your life that you're feeling horribly guilty about that you need to let go of? All right, so he goes on. Number 2, tell yourself that the behavioral ideals you set for yourself may be too high, or that your original family may have encouraged you to adopt, or even forced upon you, overly rigorous standards that you now judge yourself by. And he goes on and explains that one more in depth. And a lot of it's tied into, what standards of life was put upon you. Are you someone that's good with your hands, but your parents wanted you to be a doctor, or they wanted you to be an attorney, but yet you wanted to go over here and be an engineer? So what are we talking about here? What ideals or standards have you adopted that were put upon you? Because your career, it doesn't matter. You do what you love. You do what you're good at. It doesn't matter what your parents did. It doesn't matter what your children are going to do. So don't do that to them either. Don't say, well, you need to go do this, or, oh, wow, that makes a lot of money. You're smart enough. Why don't you go do that? No, just let them choose their own path. Find out what they're good at, what they want to do, and encourage them. So that's one of the things. So number 3, acknowledge and honor your right to protect your self-interest. Are you someone who finds it hard to say no? For if you do, you'll feel guilty. Are you one of them? Do you feel guilty because you have to tell somebody no? And you just do it so you don't feel guilty? Are you easily manipulated by guilt? Are you in a relationship that your partner is manipulating you through guilt to get you to do what they want you to do? So don't fall for that. stand up for yourself. Yes, you're going to feel a little bit guilty in the beginning. The first couple of times you do it, because I had to do this myself. I had to. When I found out I was being manipulated using guilt, I had to strongly stand up for myself and say, no more. I'm not going to allow this to happen. This is my life, and I have to live it how I see fit. So you're going to feel guilty the first couple of times you do it. But then after you start getting used to it, you start having this release. You have this weight lifted off your chest. Pretty much. You'll start feeling better when you start saying no. Trust me. All right, so number 4. Talk compassionately but authoritatively to the inner child, parts of you with whom most of your irrational guilt programs originated. So please do this. This goes back to perfectionism, and I'll put a link here at the end that you can click on that video if you've not watched it yet. Please do, because perfectionism, shame, guilt, embarrassment, humiliation, man, they all run hand in hand. So you really need to go back and watch that, but talk to your inner child. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. Give yourself permission to what's getting ready to lead into number 5, to define your own moral standards. Not necessarily the ones that were put upon you as a child. You're an adult now. So as an adult, you have to decide how you're going to live to make you happy. So number 5, devise your own adult moral standards to guide your behaviors. Teachings that have needlessly compromised you living a life that would be freer and fulfilling to you. So, that's what I was just talking about. You got to let a lot of things go. My moral standards, part of the moral standards I grew up with, and I don't want to boil it down to work ethic, because that's important no matter what. But the type of work. Everybody I was around was a coal miner, or they worked on a strip job, or something of that sort. Run heavy equipment, was a truck driver, coal truck driver, something of that nature. Well, when I got old enough, most of the coal was dried up, and there wasn't any coal mining jobs, and I wasn't real good at it anyway. I was good at different things. I wasn't real good at running heavy equipment. I was okay at driving a truck, so I did that for a while, but it wasn't real fulfilling to me. I was just like, man, is that all there is? Just driving a truck? I wanted to do something more. I wanted to be able to help people more, So I had to finally say, okay, yes, I grew up in the mountains. Yes, I grew up around that. I love my family to death. Still do. But that's not my kind of work. That's not fulfilling to me. It was fulfilling to them. They supported their families. They were wonderful men. But that's not for me. And so that's not something that I'm going to accept upon myself or pass down to my children, that they have to do one particular thing. And now down in the mountains, those are about the only jobs there were. So I don't go there. But you're going to have to devise your own adult moral standards. You're going to have to decide the type of morals that you have and don't have, because what you were raised with may not fit you. And I'm not talking about extremes here. I'm not talking about murders and thefts and this, that, and the other. Usually, those aren't the big things that get us. We all know those. It's the smaller things. And you've got to decide what fits your life and what doesn't fit your life. And once you'll make that decision for yourself, and you'll fight that guilt and give yourself permission to be you, then a lot of this will be lifted off your chest. And this is something that you're going to have to do, and that you're going to have to strive for. And as always, please, 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 get in touch with a mental health professional and let them help you, guide you through this dark forest of emotions that you've got going on right now. This is so critical for you to do that. Especially if you're in recovery from addiction, you've got to put a barrier up there. you've got to have a defense wall against relapse. And this is the one of the ways you do it is you stay connected. You stay connected with your counselor, or you get connected to one. And then you keep connected and with other people that's in recovery, through AA, through NA, Celebrate Recovery, whatever your choice is, so that you gain extra strength from others and extra knowledge and extra wisdom. And you also gain a shared fight that you're all going through, so you can see that you're not the only one. And that will help alleviate some of the guilt as well. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not the only one. There's other people like that too. And that'll alleviate some of that guilt. So, as always, this was part 2. Part 3 is coming up on embarrassment, humiliation. So be watching for that one. But as always, you're valuable, you're important, and you're loved. And I'll see you on the next video.